Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. And if you, my friends, have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you could go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. You could email Joshua@homebrewhappyhour.com. Even better, why don't you call it in, leave a voicemail to 325-305-6107. I love hearing your voice. I've said it before on the show. It validates my existence as a podcast host. And it makes my wife think that there's actually people listening. It's a win-win for everybody. I am your host, Joshua Stubing, and joining me today is nobody. It's me, solo episode, and it's a combination of maybe not having good planning. I had a guest lined up. They had to drop out, unfortunately. Life happens. I understand that. And I didn't want to do another last minute with Lorena or anybody for that matter. I was like, you know what? The questions that I grabbed anyway, I can address them. And even if I can't address them, people will leave it in the comments. See, sometimes me not knowing the answers leads to the best comments at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour. Our community, not kidding, this is not a shtick, not a joke. We have some of the most knowledgeable people at the helm ready to comment or text me or be on the show as a guest. So I'm extremely fortunate that I can just get on here, not really improvise the show, but shoot from the hip, maybe, and then have you guys in the community be like, actually, Josh, that first answer was really stupid, and here's why. And I'm like, yeah, it was really stupid. Thank you so much for correcting that. But we do, it might be short and sweet. I had originally planned for this episode to just be 4 kind of quick questions to get through, and that's helping me now that I'm doing it by myself. But also, I had a little bit more small talk to talk about. First off, let me just get right into that. No, don't set the timer because the small talk, since it's just me and I could digress, my ADHD could just be all over the place. I don't want a visual timer or anybody keeping time of this official small talk section. But it is literally, if you're listening to this on the day that we publish it, which is April the 30th, the last day of April, it is the last call to get the Boston Lager at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. My pop and I brewed it on Brew Day Live last week on Friday. It's talking about a great community. We have had such a good turnout of you guys joining the chat over at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour. We had such a good time. You could go back and watch it. It's not live. So if you comment, I'll just have to see it after the fact. But I have really been enjoying doing these Brew Day Lives this year because we've had just a phenomenal turnout in the chat, and it's been great. And in the future, too, like I said, I've said before, I want to get some of you guys on the stream. If you're brewing at the same time as us, I think that'd be fun and great to do it with you. Like literally bring you in video-wise while you're brewing, we're brewing. Small talk galore. That could be really the title of any Brew Day Live is Josh and his pop small talk. It's I find it entertaining. I think we were borderline entering a therapy session this last one. But anyway, you just have to join us live to enjoy it. It really is a good time. But it is, like I said, the last call. If you want that Boston Lager, I'm actually kegging it today, the week that this is going out, this episode. And I was so excited how it turned out. In case you're wondering, Boston Lager is a Vienna lager. So it's a great style to have, even if you're like, oh, I've had, a lot of you guys are my friends and have stuck up for me when I told y'all, oh yeah, Boston beer, Jim wasn't available. None of the brewers would do an interview. Wow, wow, wow. I feel bad for me. Oh, have I mentioned I'm unemployed? Oh. So people are like, screw Boston beer, but using harsher language than that. And so regardless of how you feel about Boston beer, I promise you this recipe kit is solid. I haven't gone to buy a Boston Lager to do a comparison yet, because we haven't kegged it yet. But I'm confident, even if this doesn't turn out to be an exact clone, because I didn't get anyone from Boston Beer to critique my recipes. So I just kind of, again, shoot from the hip. But I am 100% confident that it's going to be a fantastic Vienna lager. So last call, patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Join a recipe receiving tier, or if you see any of the recipes from this year still available for purchase, not having to join a tier, but if you're not a member at a tier and you see that buy now or buy this, I forget how Patreon labels it. And that means I have the ingredients to make the kit and ship it out to you. So patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Thank you to our sponsors, Cellar Science, Brewer's Friend, hopsdirect.com, and of course, Monster Brewing Hardware for supporting all the things that we do, making these Brew Day lives possible, making these Trub Club recipe kits as premium as they are. And of course, thank you to everybody who's a member at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Even if you're just in the free tier, building up the community means the world to me. Literally could not continue doing this show without you guys. I sincerely appreciate it. What else did I have in the small talk? I got to pull up my notes because I do remember as I was writing this episode out being like, oh man, it might be a little bit longer because I had some stuff to talk about. That's all relevant. It's all relevant. Oh yeah, Homebrew Con. As y'all know, I've had Julia Hertz on the show, and y'all know that it was coming back. At the time she came on, which was like January, not a ton of details. I've reached back out to get her back on now that all the stuff's finalized. But you can, let me see if I can actually get this up on the screen. If you're watching at youtube.com, there it is on the screen. Go to the website, homebrewcon.com. It'll forward you to the Homebrewers Association landing page where HomebrewCon registration is available. It's open right now. It's June 19th and 20th in Asheville, North Carolina. I just got my media credentials approved. Now I just got to look at the logistics of travel and lodging. The plan right now, guys, is I want to be there. That if you notice, I was careful with my word choice. I want to be there. I want to be there. I will know for a fact within the month of May if I'm going to be able to be there. And again, it's mostly just timing of logistics. I try not to, outside of a joking manner, keep bringing up my employment status, but there is a potential for full-time employment here in the near future. Of all the applications I've filled out, I got my first real interview with a job that I would actually love to have. It's a media production role. And so yeah, if that goes as well as it is, then there might be a chance that I'm not going to go to Asheville if I'm working for this place. Don't worry about the podcast. I'm still planning on producing this and keeping Homebrew Happy Hour going. But being able to take off that soon into full-time employment, I just don't know. But again, I want to be there. The plan is I want to be there. I can say that much. But you should go if you're a home brewer and you want to hang out with other like-minded, fun home brewing people. And there's a ton. I know I'm in a group chat with a bunch of creators like our buddy Trent, The Brew Show, Golden Hive Mead, Charlie, Clawhammer Supply. They're all going to be there. It's going to be a good time. And you can go to homebrewcon.com, get your tickets. You do have to be a member of the AHA to be able to get tickets. But I don't even know what that costs right now because for the longest time, I didn't pay for my membership. That was a Todd Burns thing. But yeah, if you go there, registration's $334 a person. Pardon me, let's round up. $335 a person. So I understand the financial commitment. But if you go to the website, you see all the stuff that technically starts that Thursday, June 18th. It's a fun time, man. There's going to be good stuff going on. And like I said, if you've never been to a Homebrew Con, I'm just excited that they brought it back. HomebrewCon is easily the most fun I ever had at any given year. For a Keg Connection of a trade show, we would go. We often had a booth and getting to meet people, come up, take pictures, learn about you guys. Y'all get to try our beer because we always had it at the booth. It's going to be a good time. So go or don't go. If you're not going, hey, and you're at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour, let me know in the comments why. There's a lot of strong opinions right now regarding the AHA and HomebrewCon and this or that. And I'll say this, not trying to be like enlightened centrist over here as much as I know that the AHA in their brand new independent state has to knock it out of the park this year for the future stability of the organization and specifically for their events. So I'm having high expectations of them putting off a good show because they have to. I mean, you would think that, right? Like that just logically, my mind the flow of logic is like, well, this is probably the biggest one for a while because it's the first one back. It's their first one independent. They've got to kind of set the pace, and expectations are high. So I have high expectations for the show. That's why I want to be there. And I also want to be there to hang out with you guys and all my friends in the community. So it's going to be a good time. Which does remind me, I don't have a thing to put up on the screen. 99% of y'all listen to this show anyway. So when I talk about the screen stuff, you're like, oh, we don't have a screen. I'm listening to this in the car, or I'm jogging. I know Big Brew Day is coming up this weekend. Let me know if you're brewing. I'm actually helping my pop and my mom with the garage sale at their place. And I tried to convince them to let us just give away free beer there. Some of y'all who are longtime listeners may go, who is this guy that wants to keep giving away his beer? Because not even a year ago, I was griping at my pop for taking growlers of our beer to like poker nights and stuff. I'm like, Dad, quit giving away the good stuff. But now we are drowning in beer because we're not drinking fast enough. We've knocked down brewing 10-gallon batches down to 5 to help us out. I still have a keezer full of beer. And so I was like, Pop, let me bring some beer over. And he's like, son, the garage sale starts at like 7 a.m. He didn't say that. That's me injecting what he should have said, as opposed to just like, that's not that. Yeah. So I might take my coffee maker there. But if you're in Austin and you want to come buy my junk or my parents' junk, look for us in the South Austin area. If you need details, you can text me 325-305-6107. I'm not going to give my pop's address out to the dozens of listeners of this show, but I won't be brewing on Big Brew Day. The two outside of HomebrewCon, the two main events or activities that the AHA did every year, Big Brew Day and Learn How to Brew, they always fall on a birthday weekend for my children or for myself. I don't know the last time I participated in either. And I wish I could, because I want to support like these things like as a online community, or if you have a local community, I want to support that stuff for real. But it's like, hey, Josh, what are you doing for Big Brew Day? I'm going to be at Chuck E. Cheese because it's my youngest daughter's birthday. Or, not this weekend. I'm going to actually be doing a garage sale in the morning. And then I'm going to go wrestle cuddle my buddies in the afternoon. And then in November, Learn to Brew Day. Y'all going to do like a live webinar or something? No, it's me and my wife's birthday weekend. I'm actually going to take her to brunch or whatever. So that's just me making excuses for why I don't participate in stuff. But you should. And let me know in the comments below. Text me. Send me your photos. I'd love to include that on our social media. And speaking of that, I think I can put this on the screen now. We had a very exciting thing. I brag about the Trub Club recipes. And you may go, Joshua, that's a conflict of interest, because doesn't that make you money? To which I argue, very little money after shipping's accounted for. But one of the reasons I really do brag about it, the ingredients are so premium. Until you brew a kit, I am convinced you can just hear me and think, he's just selling it, because again, it's in his best interest for as many people to sign up. But I promise you, they're premium. My pop and I have been making the best beer of our lives the last couple of years. And a lot of that is because of the high quality premium ingredients of these kits. And I'm excited to announce, let me see how I get it up on the screen. There we go. It's over at our Instagram.com/Homebrew Happy Hour, or this is actually Facebook's page. They're linked together. Same difference. I think it's literally the same company. Our buddy Robert Cummings, he got 3rd place for that Shinerbot clone in a local competition of his. I'm excited to now say officially that the Trub Club recipe kits are award-winning. You can see it, read it, and weep, Mom. They're real. Robert didn't even have to make up the trophy like I always joke about doing. And it's just a joke. I totally would never do that, guys. But you can see on the screen, pardon me, he 3rd place in the International Dark Lager category for this local competition. It is so cool to see people getting our kits, brewing them as is, submitting them to contest, and winning. I'm really proud of the kit. I'm happy. Thank you, Robert, for submitting it. And for more importantly, for just letting me know. Like I said, when you guys are brewing or whatever, don't be a stranger. Either tag us on social or text your stuff directly to me. I did get his permission to share his name and all that, so I'll do that. I promise y'all I'll grant y'all the courtesy. I don't just take y'all stuff, screenshot it, and then be like, oh, yay, this guy, I will ask, oh, hey, are you okay with me sharing it? And he was like, absolutely, I would love that. And I think he even said some nice things. Sometimes some of you guys say nice things. He was like, I want y'all and the kits to get the credit they deserve. And again, which means a lot to me because I'm not, confession, and this is no news to anyone who's been listening for more than a month or a couple episodes. I'm not a pro in regards to, I'm going to sit down and formulate, I know exactly what a Vienna lager should be or an international dark lager. I source the information for this year. That's why I like doing the interviews, because I could run the recipes I came up with, my ideas from sourcing from a bunch of different ones, from Brewer's Friend, from Homebrew Talk, from Brew Father, just sourcing around, then talking to the people behind the kit, like in this case, Greg Hebner, the brewmaster over at Shiner Beer, and him saying, oh, you didn't have enough caramel in there. Let's up that a little, or whatever. Perfect. Send the kit out. Y'all brew it. Y'all are like, man, this is great. Submit it to contest. And look at that. Award winning. I like that. I'm going to have to make a logo now and for the recipe tiers and go award winning recipe tiers, because marketing matters. But anyway, I was super pumped about that. It did make me feel a lot better. Because I know, like, my pop and I, here, I'll segue into this next part. I am considering, now that we've had a bunch of commercial clone brew days under our belt for this year, a while ago, 5 years ago, maybe we started it during the beginning of COVID. And it didn't last a ton, maybe 9 or 10 episodes, but we had a secondary show that was broadcast through this same channel at youtube.com/Homebrew Happy Hour. Or if you're an audio listener, I would just put the audio version into the same feed. And it was called Recipe Recap and Review. I don't know if I can do a formal poll on the YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcast, but let me know in the comments or text me if you think that would be an interesting show to bring back, or perhaps a segment just on the normal podcast if we can't fill a half hour to an hour's worth of time talking about the recipes. But what Recipe Recap and Review was, we would brew a kit. One of my favorite ones was the breakfast stout. We would get a commercial version of that. We would go over how the brew day we would talk about the details of the brew day, like the grain bill, the hop schedule, what we mashed at, what we fermented at, how many days until we keg, carbonation level, and then how it turned out. And, it wasn't like, when I say all that, it sounds like we were real technical. It wasn't. It was just relaying straightforward information to the listener, to the audience. But I think with these commercial ones, it would be cool if my pop and I, let's get a Shiner bot. Let's put our clone of it next side by side and talk about, hey, man, this ended up this way. And here's the differences. And what could we have done differently to maybe nail it more? And with every month, I'm considering doing that because, again, I have a little bit more free time on my hands for a certain reason I won't go back into. But I think it would be fun, and either to be its own episode per month or a segment. I can't decide. But if you have any input and you're watching at YouTube, leave a comment, because that helps the algorithm, and because I really do want your feedback on this. It's something I've talked about for a month or two now and haven't jumped in yet because I want to gauge the interest. I wouldn't call this a mistake, but one thing in the past with Homebrew Happy Hour on our YouTube specifically, like I did a weekly show that would come out on Mondays called Booze News Weekly. I'm a big fan of rhyming and or alliteration. That's more rhyming, just the Booze News Weekly. And I thought when I did it, this is going to be great because I can just do a 10-minute or less quick, like it'll get content up on our YouTube and it'll be relevant information for the craft beverage industry. It'll be great. And I maybe did as well as that 10 episodes and they flopped. Like the audio version, people would skip it. Not, like not hypothetically, literally, our weekly episode gets between 12,500 and 15,000 downloads via the metrics that we have on our media host, Libsyn. And most of it's through Apple Podcasts and then Spotify. And then there's a ton of different Android or alternative ones, Pocket Cast, not SoundCloud. I forget the other ones. But either way, where I'm going with this is, let's say the average one is 13,000 audio downloads within the first 7 days after publishing it. And the Booze News Weeklies would be half of that. So it was like, oh, people are purposely going out of their way to not listen to this. So, this has never been a money-making thing, but time is money. So I was like, I spend an hour prepping for that show. Then I record the 10 minutes. Then I edit it for half an hour. So let's just round up. It's a couple hours or 3 hours of total time. Probably not worth it. But recipe recap and review may be worth it. You all let me know. I am but a slave to the will of the people. So if you guys think, Josh, I think it'd be cool to have you and your pop try it out like the old days of recipe recap and review. And obviously, worst case scenario, y'all are like, you know what? This isn't that interesting. You guys, y'all don't have a lot of things to say that I care about. And then I'd say, yeah, you're right, and stop doing it. But anyways, like I said, I hope y'all weren't keeping a timer on the small talk because no one's here to rein me in. This episode is brought to you by Cellar Science. For years, homebrewers have been told they have to choose. Do you want the quality of liquid yeast or the convenience of dry? Well, Cellar Science flipped the script. They're proving that dry yeast isn't just a backup plan anymore, it's the upgrade. Cellar Science offers premium dry yeast that delivers higher cell counts than typical liquid pitches, meaning you get a stronger, healthier fermentation without the hassle. And the best part? You can direct pitch right into your wort, no starters, no waiting, just brewing. Whether you need their new West Coast strain for a classic American IPA or jungle for a massive fruity estery flavor, they've got your next batch covered. It's quality yeast that doesn't break the bank. Save time, save money, and brew better beer with Cellar Science. I don't have any listener feedback, don't have any voicemail, so let's just get right into it. Before I do, we need to hear from the gong of questions, which last week I had one gong apparently, and then questions 2 and 3, I had a lot of text messages from y'all being like, Josh, there wasn't a gong on 2 or 3. That's my bad. This week, I'm going to at least have 2 gongs. Let's say that. So the first one, our buddy Eric texted me in and he said, I'm thinking about finally making the jump to kegging, but I'm worried I'll miss the nuance of bottle conditioning. Are there certain styles where you think natural carbonation is actually superior, or should I go 100% CO2 tanks and never look back? I did make notes when I last minute myself learned I was doing this show by myself. So, because it's the wrong person to be asking about bottle conditioning. I have been a part of one batch of beer that we bottled. It was a grapefruit pale that Todd did. I think it was called Summer Nights Grapefruit. It was a very popular kit back when we ran homebrewsupply.com. And we did a series on brewing your first beer. And unfortunately, we've had part 1 and 2 published at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour. Part 3, the audio files were so corrupted, we couldn't do anything with it. So if you go to those videos and you find part 1 or 2, a lot of the comments are like, where's the final part, which is the bottling? And it's like, oh yeah, about that. Yeah, we couldn't. Unfortunately, that was in the early days of us using cinema camera and some other gear, and I didn't have redundancy. And stop me if you've heard this, but prior proper planning would have prevented piss poor performance. That's neither here nor there. The question that Eric brought to the table, I know from being, a home brewer for almost 20 years and being around brewing and people who do at least bottle their beer, there are some styles that directly benefit from it. It's usually again, this is anecdotal, and one of these questions that I'm expecting comments, which, not trying to troll you guys, but if I'm wrong, let me know. You can't hurt my feelings. My understanding off the top of my head and the notes that I wrote, Belgians and farmhouse ales specifically benefit because they benefit from a dry, high carbonation finish. When you are bottle conditioning using that priming sugar, you have a little bit more, well, I won't say more control because forced carbonating, I have the ultimate control, but you can add as much or as little. The risk when you add a bunch of priming sugar is obviously creating a bottle bomb. One main reason I don't ever want to bottle condition, I am terrified of pressurized vessels. I realize I'm in the wrong hobby to be terrified of pressurized vessels, but bottle bombs, that one grapefruit pail that Todd did was borderline bottle bombs. We took them to the beach, that beach trip, my pop and I, and the first one we opened, you crack open we got a bottle opener, cracked open the bottle, and then a geyser. And I was like, oh God, it could have been so much worse. I think actual explosions are not super common. Like when people say bottle bombs, I really think they are talking about that geyser that happened to us. But in my head, I associate, no, that vessel could explode. And shards of glass, no bueno, my friend, no bueno. But to get back to Eric's question, high gravity beers, which I know, a lot of Belgians and farmhouse, so not to be redundant. I've been told from brewers who do this that they like to bottle condition their sours because it helps stabilize the beers. And bottle conditioning, if you're aging any kind of beer, it helps with the maturation of that beer, like, getting the flavors you're going for, letting it just sit at conditioning temperatures, which I guess would be cellar temp. So let's say anywhere from, mid 50s to high 60s. I'm making that up, but that sounds like a good thing. I have also heard that Hefeweizen is a great style to bottle condition. Now, the subjective qualification here of superior, that's something to get the comments going, because I'm going to argue, no matter what the style is, it is superior to keg it because of the convenience you have with getting it into a packaging that's immediately satisfactory. It's more straightforward. A 5-gallon batch of beer, if you yield a literal 5 gallons, let's round. It's 50 bottles, right? 50 12-ounce bottles. Someone check my math. I think it's technically 52, or maybe it's 48. I don't know. It's in that ballpark. Cleaning bottles sucks, guys. It's not my least favorite thing in the world, but it's top 50, and which leads me to our new segment, Josh's 50 things he hates doing. I don't have a bumper for that like I do listener feedback, but cleaning bottles is not fun. Even, in my privileged state where I have access, Todd at the headquarters, which is no longer my headquarters, but the headquarters for CM Becker still has bottles. I think he's going to try to sell to local homebrew clubs there. So I could get new bottles. I still have to clean them and, rinse them and sanitize them. And just even not having to peel labels, not having to get gunk out. If I was, the old days of people who bottled, they would go get that 12-pack of Shiner bought, drink it down until enough cases of beer till they had enough for their 5-gallon batch, clean them, sanitize them. Boom. Now I've got bottles for my own beer. Even with brand new bottles, you got to clean them. You have to sanitize them. It's just something I don't want to do, where cleaning a keg, and we have a question about cleaning and sanitizing later, so I won't go too deep into that, but it's so straightforward, guys. It's so easy. Stainless steel is so hygienic. Glass is too, assuming, Eric, that you're going to be using glass. I know some people do prefer plastic bottles, which I guess you'd have to get off the internet, because I don't think you're going to go get a bunch of Coca-Colas and then use those for your beer. But again, the best word is ignorant. I'm ignorant to bottling because I don't do it. And the reason I don't do it is not just laziness, but it's convenience. I love having the entire 5-gallon batch in one vessel, or the 10-gallon batch split up between 2 vessels. It's so easy to clean. It's so easy to sanitize. And then after that beer gets cold, I'll just say the process. We pressure ferment at my office right now is like 64 degrees. And that's on average what we're pressure fermenting in. And so we don't have a secondary or a cold condition process. And again, I won't go too deep into that because we have a question about secondarying. But we I keg straight from our Brewzilla into a clean and sanitized keg using closed transfer method. So that's being able to hook up a disconnect to the Firmzilla and using the pressure from the fermentation. And if I have to add the CO2 tank to it, I will. So that way, the keg that has been purged of CO2 is ready to receive beer. It never touches oxygen in the process. It's closed from the disconnect on the Brewzilla into my keg. I then, once that keg is full with the amount I want, which is ideally 5 gallons, stick it in the fridge and let it chill for at least 12 hours. I just do it overnight. Like if I keg at noon, I just wait till the next morning. So it's not quite 24 hours, somewhere between 12 and 24. And when it's cold is when you want to, or when I want to, then force carbonate. Lately, because we haven't been touching beer as fast, or haven't need to, we've had patience. I haven't been doing burst forced carbonation where I put 30 psi on it and I rock it for a minute and then I test it with my CM Becker event faucet and then I put it back on and I rock it and shake it vigorously. I just set it at serving temp or serving pressure, which is 10 to 12. And so mine will be between 10 and 12. So let's just say 11. And like this Vienna lager, a lager is a style that benefits from cold conditioning as long as you're willing to let it. By the time we do tap into it, which will probably be next Brew Day Live, so at the end of May, so about a month, it's going to be perfectly carbonated. It's going to be ready to serve, and it was hygienic, and it is ideal. And I bring up that process just to say that, to me, being that straightforward makes sense. With bottle conditioning, I don't know. You guys that bottle are going to have to probably correct me. I don't think there's a rule of thumb for, you just put a teaspoon of priming sugar. I really don't know. I've never done it. I don't remember. It was so long ago what Todd did with the bottles, but I know he did a little too much, and that, the beer was good, but it did affect the end result in an inconvenient way. Like, golly, we had to the second bottle we had to open and let it sit and settle until that carbonation just chilled out. That's not enjoyable. I wanted that beer right now. I don't want to wait 25 minutes for it to settle down. So, if you're making me pick, Eric, of a superior style, forced carbonating in a keg is always going to get my win, or the set and forget in a keg. If people want to split hairs over the semantics of what forced carbonation literally means. When I say forced carbonation, I just mean manually adding carbonation to that keg. I'm not adding priming sugar into a keg and letting it naturally carbonate between the activity of the residual yeast and the contents of the beer. I'm putting that beer in a 5-gallon vessel. I'm setting it at serving pressure. And then I'm coming back in a week or two, or as high as a month, or as late as a month, and it's perfect. It's right where I want it. If you were wanting instant satisfaction, instant gratification, the gratification. English is hard. I was saying satisfaction, but I meant gratification. If you want instant gratification, that's another beautiful thing, though, about forced carbonating. You could do the rocking and shaking method and get to enjoy your beer that much quicker. Todd has done that for us before up at the barn, where I think it was a Kolsch that he did. It may have been the Kolsch he did for his nephew's wedding. I just remember being there when he kegged it. He forced carbed it because he does do a secondary, or he does a cold crash. He has the Spike CF10 or pardon me, CF15 with glycol. So it was already cold and it was almost at pressure anyway. He kegged it and did the 30 psi and rocked it and shaked it, put it in. Was it as clear as it could have been? No, of course not. But we were enjoying it that same day. That's the beauty of kegging and forced carbonation. Now I welcome every comment at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour to tell me why I'm wrong, why you think bottle conditioning can be superior, and what styles you think that they work best. And leave it below. Or even better, call it in to 325-305-6107. I would love nothing more than to have a segment on a future episode where Josh is an idiot and I just play all your voicemails of, you really biffed that question, dude. You know why bottle conditioning is better? Here's why. I'd love to play your voicemail. So leave it there below. And Eric, thank you so much, guys. A reminder to use that same hotline to leave a question if you want to. And when you leave it as a voicemail, it really does make my little tiny Grinch heart grow 3 times larger. So thank you, Eric. This episode is brought to you by brewersfriend.com. Brewing beer at home isn't just about ingredients, it is about precision. And that's where brewersfriend.com comes in. Whether you're dialing in your first recipe or perfecting your 100th, Brewer's Friend gives you the tools to brew with confidence. Their recipe builder, mash calculators, and water profile database helps take the guesswork out of the process so you can focus on what matters, making great beer. Brewer's Friend isn't just software, it's a community of passionate homebrewers sharing recipes, tips, and feedback. It's like having a homebrew club right in your pocket. Head over to brewersfriend.com today and take your homebrewing to the next level. Use promo code Happy Hour and get 25% off your premium membership. That's brewersfriend.com, because brewing better starts with better tools. The gong of questions brings us to our second question of the show, another text message. I've been having to go through text. For weeks, I'll go through all the emails. When a week ago or 2 weeks ago, a ton of voicemail. I have to get through these text messages too, because I just want to not have too many of any. But our buddy Mason texted in. He wrote, what is one piece of gear you bought that was totally life-changing for how you brew? I love these simple questions when I'm doing a show by myself. He said one piece of gear, but y'all know I'm probably going to talk about two. The Float It's obviously, I'll get to the Float It because that's been my perennial favorite piece of gear since Trong at homebrewerlab.com brought it out. The 2.0 is just life-changing. But that's not technically the questions about how you brew. And also the questions technically about a piece of gear you bought. Spoiler, I haven't bought most of my gear. Either sponsor provided or the checkbook of one Mr. Todd Burns has been underwriting all my gear. But the one piece that was actually bartered in kind for a sponsorship at the time that has been game-changing, and I don't have enough nice things to say about them, the Grainfather G40. You could probably substitute any electric all-in-one for that, and I would probably agree. Like, I know a lot of people in our community love Clawhammer. I know Lorena's doing a Brewzilla, which is from Kegland. The Anvil Foundry I have experience with. The Spike all-in-one, the Solo, I think they call it. Electric all-in-ones are game-changing. Dude, specifically the G40. What I love the most about and you're going to think this is a promo for the G40. I get no money for saying this. I don't even have an affiliate link unless they sell it on Amazon, which I don't think they do because it's so expensive. But allow me to be infomercial Joshua here for a second. The G40 by Grainfather, Bevy International. They have made brewing for my pop and I so much more straightforward, and we're humans. Let me get on the therapist couch real quick. I'm a fallible man. I'm not perfect. And even with the G40, there are things in the brew day that I'll forget if I don't program it into the recipe, like Whirlflock tablets. Frequently, I don't program into there. And it's a hit or miss on a brew day live if we're going to remember the Whirlflock. I also, on our Pliny kit, I'll confess it on here, at the risk of being made fun of. We talked about it on Brew Day Live, but not as many of y'all watch Brew Day Live as listen to the weekly episode. We forgot a very critical ingredient on that brew day, which was the corn sugar, the dextrose. We totally forgot to add it because I didn't put it in to Grainfather for the app on board, for the controller on board to tell me, hey, add that now. It's flame out. Go, or 10 minutes left, or whenever you add the corn sugar. I think it's 10 or 15 left in the boil. I totally forgot to do it. So we didn't do a Pliny, the Elder 8% beer. We did ours finished at 6%, or it was like 6.5. I forget. I'd have to go back and watch the Brew Day Live where I had the numbers and I confessed and was like, don't judge us. But that out of the way, That's because I didn't program it into. If I was brewing on a propane top burner, like outside, like my pop and I used to, for the boil, I would have forgotten it then too. But one thing I love about electric all grain brewing, specifically a 240 volt electric system, it just makes stuff easier. Like when we mash in, or when I get the mash water to strike temp, it's very quick. I mean, on our last brew day live, the temperature of the water going into the G40 was 77, I think, and getting from 77 to the 158 or whatever it gets to, because it has to shoot high to account for the temperature of the grains when I add them for the mash to get it back down to that 149, 150 that we like to mash at. I think it got up to like 158 or 159 in like 30 minutes. We have a mash and boil, the Gen 1 without a recirculation pump, and it's a 110 volt. It takes a while to get to temp. So, if you're doing a 110 electric all grain and you're listening to this, you may be like, Josh, they're not that great. Electric all brewing is not what it's cut out to be. Change that by getting a 240. It's worth it. My father-in-law helped me run electricity for a 240 to where we brew now. If you watch us on our brew day lives, that whole setup there was made possible because we ran a conduit from my breaker box or whatever. 240 electric all grain brewing is just game changing. And then, I don't want to speak for like Todd or James here, but they would probably argue too, any 240 electric all grain brewing is going to be game changing. They like using a 3 vessel. They feel like it gives them more control. That's great. I like the convenience of an all-in-one. If you want to use a bag in there, you can. It has a basket, which is more or less acting like a bag. We still sparge. You can't squeeze that basket. It's a metal basket. But absolutely life-changing. The best beer. This Boston Lager was our 40th official batch on that system. And my pop will have to chime in the comments. I can't think of a bad batch we've had because of the brew process on the G40. I've messed up temperature once. I know we had a bad batch, and then I think I splashed on another batch. No, the fermenter. That's right. I had let our last Firmzilla get a little, it was a little gnarly. It was a little, maybe I could have been better at cleaning it. And the next question is actually about that. And I'll talk more about that on the next question. But absolutely life-changing. The first thing that comes to my mind to wrap up Mason's question is the G40. Electric all-grain brewing, 220 if you can do it. And it is, or is it 220 or 240? I'm not an electrician and I'm not very bright, but 220 to be safe, 220 volt. It'll change your life. And stuff like the Grainfather, the app just makes it so I could put in my recipe, all my fermentables, the hop schedule. And if you have the app on your phone, or we use it on an iPad too, the moment hey, the boil's reached. Okay, thank you. Add your 60-minute hop addition. Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me. Oh, hey, 30 minutes, add your hops. Oh, that's right. It has been 30 minutes. Because if you watch our Brew Day Lives, you think I'm getting wordy in this episode. My pop and I will start at point A, and we're on point B, C, D, E, F, G, and we totally lose track of time. If it was not for the app's notifications on that Grainfather, we would absolutely forget hop additions. We'd be arguing about some historical event or something that happened to me as a child, that my father beat me or whatever. We'd be arguing about the validity of the story I'm telling about my father, and be like, oh crap, we forgot to add the hops or whatever. Where the Grainfather G40 specifically been game changing. And then I'll be very short and sweet. Y'all know how I feel about the Float It 2.0. Shout out to my buddy Tron for inventing the absolute best floating dip tube on the planet. It does not get better than that. In fact, I told that anecdote about Todd force carbing a Kolsch and we drinking it that same night. If he had a Float It 2.0 at the time on that serving vessel, it would have not been crystal clear. Would have been pretty darn clear, because the filtration, I don't know how many microns it is. It's on the website, homebrewerlab.com. I also don't get paid for that either. Today's episode is brought to you by free promos. It is so good at filtration that it can take a beer that is a little green and not as an off flavor, but I just mean like recently kegged, and clear it up by a pretty good chunk, and also keep out any particulates. Because like one thing about us not doing a secondary and just going straight off the yeast cake into a keg, particulates get in there. It's just a part of it, right? And the float it not only ensures the filtration to not bring those into my glass as I'm drinking, it also, Tron, what is his, he has a tagline for it, like no beer left behind, I think is what he says. Or was that George Bush, no kids left behind? I think he says no beer left behind. He's not lying. I've seen on Instagram people showing the opening up their keg and the floated at the bottom, and there's some, a tiny little mound of yeast particulates that were brought over from their transfer, but not a drop of beer. That thing, I don't know how he did it. He's probably talked about it on the show, and I'm just a bad listener, but it is phenomenal how exceptional that piece of gear is at what it was made to do. If you don't have a Float at 2.0, I actually, you know what? I'll put my Amazon link, and then I have to leave disclosure. I get 1.5% of every sale of the links to Amazon, or maybe it's 3%. It's nothing, but it's something if you want to support the show. So look in the show notes. I'll put a link to the Float at 2.0. I'll put a link to the Grainfather. Trying to think of a retailer. If you have a local homebrew supply shop and they can order it for you, support them. Let's do that. Let's get some support for our local mom and pop shops. But if you need an online place, obviously our buddies at More Beer, I know they carry the Grainfather. I'm not sure if you can order direct from Grainfather's website, but if you're looking to get into electric all grain brewing, I can highly recommend Grainfather as a brand. The G30, the original, James had a ton of experience on it and absolutely loved it before scaling up to 17-gallon batches. Like I said, my pop and I on the G40. I've considered going up to the G70 back when I thought we needed that much beer. I've since changed my mind, but I did consider it. So yeah, those, any 220, 240, somebody correct me, volt electric all grain brewing, you're not going to go wrong. I can promise you that, whether it's from Anvil, Spike, Clawhammer, Grainfather. Look into it. And if you disagree, let me know in the comments below at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour, because your comments help the algorithm and I care about that. So Mason, thank you so much for submitting that question. Moving on, the gaunt of questions. Question number 3. Our buddy Derek, another text message. I'll be honest, Josh, I hate cleaning. Me too, brother. Can I just rinse my fermenter well with hot water and then hit it with Star San? Or do I really need to do a full PBW soak every single time I kick a keg? Tale as old as time. How do we shorten the brew day? The process. I had this beer and I need to reuse that keg, and it has a little bit of beer left over from the last batch, and I got to transfer this beer. Can I just rinse it and sanitize it? The answer is yeah, you probably could. The really hot water and stuff, like what you don't want, in the first kind of analogy that comes to, or analogy, I think this is what it is, that comes to my brain is like, yeah, but can you sanitize dirt? You know what I mean? Like, I think Lorena and I have talked about this with cold plate chillers, where a lot of people swear by them because of the efficacy. Like, oh, I get temperature down when I'm chilling my wort so low when using a cold plate. And one thing I don't like about cold plate, because I've seen it with my own eyes with certain homebrewers, I won't throw anybody's name under the bus. Hop, especially like if you do that Pliny kit and all those hop additions and you're using a plate chiller, they get all in those plates and this or that. And I've known a home brewer who was like, yeah, I don't even worry about flushing trying to get all the particulates out. I just boil the heck out of it and that sanitizes it. Okay, but they're still there, and I don't know. I don't know science. I'm a caveman, right? I'm a Neanderthal caveman at best. Pond scum is right below that, and I'm in between pond scum and Neanderthal as regard to my intellect. But with that being said, like if you had some beer stone from your last batch in your keg, and you did, what is technically a temperature for sanitizing? I think 185 at like 20 minutes. I could be making that up. And all the information I ever have is on the internet. And so I know the internet's true. So it's something like 185 at 20 minutes. But to be safe, boiling water, 212. And you put it in the keg and and you don't add brew clean or PBW is what Derek had said. They're the same thing. OxyClean, whatever. Double O, there's a bunch of different options out there for homebrewers. You just want to use the hot water sanitizing thing. Okay. Or for cleaning and I guess sanitizing. Yeah, that would work. But really too, when I'm cleaning the keg to use for a future purpose, another batch, I don't always take it apart, but I do like to, like I had a keg brought back from Todd of the Belgian triple. He didn't like it because it didn't finish all the way out. It was still too sweet. I get it. So he dumped it, and we had met in Lockhart a couple weeks ago. Long story short, a German counterpart from CMB Schunkenlagen, Stefan, shout out Stefan, came from Germany. Me, Todd, my pop and Stefan met in Lockhart, and I don't remember actually if that's when I got the keg from Todd. Either way, he gave me the keg of Belgian triple back, and it still had, some gunk in it because of, again, the way we transfer. Some gunk does make it over and settles at the bottom. Float at 2.0 has resolved that, but I digress. So could I have just rinsed it out and not had to do rinse it out first and then a brew clean bath and then rinse it out again? Maybe, but for me, for peace of mind and because I like protocol, believe it or not, the laziness part's not a shtick, but I do kind of overplay it. When I get kegs from my pop, he usually cleans them, but if they're not clean, it's just easier for me for the process that has worked for me to follow that process every time, which is that beer I just kicked. Okay, I'm going to rinse it out real well, put clean water in it, get the clean water to go through the post by, using like a pick or a screwdriver, anything that can push down that post, holding it upside down, the keg, which is a little heavy when it's full of clean water. And so I get the clean water established there. For me, that first rinse doesn't even have to necessarily be hot water, just any clean water from the hose, whatever. And when I get that emptied out and I have clean water that ran through the post because there's going to be some residual beer in there or hot particulates or whatever in both posts, getting clean water going through there. Then I empty out that water and I do fill it with as hot of water as I can coming from my tap. I'm making up a degree here, but I think the average hot water heater outputs at like probably 130. I think mine I've measured as high as 135 because I think my wife asked my father-in-law once to up it because women take scalding hot baths. Why they do that, I don't know. I have high blood pressure. I can't take scalding hot baths. But either way, I think ours comes out, let's just say it's 130. 130, I put the tablespoon and some change, and I really just eyeball it, of brew clean when I've got about a quart of water in that keg, which again is just an eyeball guesstimation. And I let that soak for a minimum of 30 minutes. Frequently, it ends up being an hour because I'm busy doing other stuff. Brew clean, PBW, whatever, is not no rinse. You want to rinse it. It'll get slimy. It's a detergent. I don't think residuals are going to kill you, but when you're going to get diarrhea, it's going to be a bad day. So either way, when I rinse that and then I need to use that keg immediately for transferring new beer in, you don't want hot water. I use iodine, iodophor. I think that's National Chemicals. My absolute favorite. Todd can't stand it because it stains stuff. It's not going to stain your stainless steel, but if I make a batch and I put it in a bucket, yeah, that bucket gets a little beige. That's how you know it's working. I think iodine is what every hospital uses for sanitation too, I think. I just remember in 5th grade, my hernia surgery, I think when I looked down at the scar when I woke up, that it had that kind of weird stain to it. I'm pretty sure iodine has been used since the beginning of time. And so iodophor is one of my favorites. And forever ago, when we had Jonathan Etley, I believe was his name, from National Chemicals on the show, he had just convinced me of the efficacy of iodine for killing all things basically, and really doing an exceptional job of sanitizing. So I do make a 5-gallon batch. It takes an ounce or an ounce and a half of iodophor per 5.5 gallons or per 5 gallons. And I think the contact time is only a few minutes. I'll let it do 10 because again, if 5 is good, 10 is great. And I usually dump that into a bucket so then I can start filling other stuff or sanitizing other things as need be. But where I'm going with this, I'm giving way too much information, Derek. You just asked, can I just rinse and then, hit it with Star San? I reached out to Derek for clarification of what he meant, because if the keg is reasonably clean, of course you could. But I give all this information to tell you that I have a process, and even if the keg comes to me and looks reasonably clean, I've just had good results keeping to that protocol, if that makes sense to you guys. I've been accused of being on the spectrum by many people, mostly my wife. And so I just like, when I get a regimen, I like to stick to it because it's what's worked. When you've had a beer with off flavors that presumably came from contamination because of bad hygiene, it affects you. And so my laziness in years past, and I mean a long time ago, of, oh, that keg looks clean, let's just hit it with the Star San or whatever. Or maybe I'm even kind of half-hearted with the sanitation process, the sanitizing process, pardon me, get that English correct. If I'm half-hearted with the sanitizing process, that's going to affect the beer I worked hard to brew. And the worst thing ever is having a phenomenal brew day, having your yeast go to town and fermentation's on point, but piss poor performance of hygiene, having bad hygiene in the packaging will ruin all that hard work, or not necessarily hard work, but it would be a waste of time and ingredients and all that to then slack at the sanitizing. I'll get it right. To process. So I guess what I'm getting at, Derek, is this is one, being hygienic is one part I wouldn't half-ass for the brew process. Like if you can make it into your regimen that every keg that you, after a batch of beers gone through it, you float that keg, just, rinse it initially, do a full cleansing, do it with your PBW. PBW is cheap. Per serving, it's cheap. And then sanitize it. What a Star San stain. Don't fear the foam. And then transfer into it. And I promise you, you're not going to regret it. The worst thing would be if you skip a step of the cleaning part. And even though you're like, well, if I sanitize it, that's going to that's all that matters anyways. Okay, maybe. I would love y'all's comments if you're watching at youtube.com/Homebrew Happy Hour and like, Josh, yeah, the sanitizing is really all that matters. Okay, I'm willing to be wrong, but just hear me out. I've made a regimen and a process, and I want to stick to it because it's worked for me. You can argue against that, but I'm just trying to explain myself for why I do the things I do. Derek, thank you so much for submitting that question. Today's show is brought to you by Hopsdirect.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, Hopsdirect.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsdirect.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsdirect.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsdirect.com. Final question, which means the final gong of questions. Our last text message is our buddy Roger, and he wrote in, every old school brewer that I know says I need to move my beer to a glass carboy for secondary to get it off my yeast cake. Now I'm hearing that's actually bad for the beer. Is secondary fermentation dead? Is there a reason to risk the oxygen exposure? I actually did write notes for this one too. But I did not realize all my talking, guys. If you've stuck around this long for this episode, God bless you, because I'm even catching myself going, golly, Josh, you're long-winded. No one else is on the show, though, to help me out. I have to be long-winded. Otherwise, it's just awkward silence, or it would have been a 20-minute episode. I'm going to stop digressing from my digression. My pop and I have not secondaried in Dad, if you're watching, leave a comment. I want to say we haven't secondaried in 5 years. It's been a very long time. One of the benefits of secondary conditioning, I will say, we would secondary every batch. Didn't matter the style. One time we even did it with the Hefeweizen, and you guys crapped on us hard. Like I think it was on an Instagram post or something where I was showing like transferring our Hefe, and y'all were like, no, what are you doing? Why? You don't want to secondary. Because every batch, I love clear beer, even if the style doesn't really call for it. Hefeweizen, hazies, whatever. We don't brew hazies, but I like clear beer. Secondary, we would transfer from primary at, if it was an ale, let's just say it was 70 degrees, into a glass or plastic carboy, mostly glass. And that was when we would start our cold conditioning before going to a keg. When we would go to the keg, and we at this time were doing open transfers because it was in a glass carboy. But seeing how the cold conditioning dropped any residual sediment, like we would get, we had an ESB once, which unfortunately, not the first ESB I splashed when going from secondary to the keg. And so that one tasted a little cardboardy. The second time we did it though, the beer was just beautiful, just coming out. Kolsch, the first Kolsch we ever did in a secondary style, crystal clear coming from that. So I will say, yeah, man, there's some benefits to secondary. This is all contingent on your equipment, because I would argue, and again, I'm open to being wrong. If I'm conflating words or concepts, y'all let me know. My understanding, like Todd on his CF15, I would call it a secondary, even though it's the same vessel, when he can use glycol before transferring into a keg, before the packaging step, he's able to bring that temperature of the beer or the wort fermenting in there down to 34, 35 degrees. I would call that, I know that's a cold conditioning process, but I would consider that a pseudo secondary. If I had the ability to do that, I would probably do that, because I would love for that phase of fermentation and clarification to happen before I keg. That would be ideal. But my literal flow for how we brew, how we ferment, and how we package is based on the equipment I have and the environment I have. This office, 140 some odd square foot, and I have a mini split with like an air conditioner that is overkill. It's meant for like 2,000 square feet. So I can get this room cold. So when we did that, I knew this is going to be our fermentation chamber, for lack of better words. And I still want to do it under pressure because I don't want to get it down to like, I don't even know if the machine will let me go down to like a 50. Let's see how low this will let me go. Right now, let's see. It'll let me, okay. It only goes down to 64 anyways. So, I'm not going to get as cold as I need to for loggers or whatever. And doing it under pressure, again, when I found a regimen that worked, it just made sense to keep doing it that way. But where I'm going with this is we package at 64, 65. That's not a cold conditioning part. And that's certainly, like I said, not ideal for starting to add carbonation to it. So for us, that works out fine though, because we're never in a rush to drink the beer. So when I package at 64 into a keg, throw it into the 34 degree Keezer, or mine might be a little bit higher than 34, and let it chill for at least 12 hours, boom, now I'm right where I want to be. And more importantly, reiterating one of my favorite pieces of gear, using that Float It 2.0 then also helps with the clarification. See, I've adapted like the things, the processes you may have had to do before to achieve clarification, where you could also add gelatin, there's fining stuff, you could do all that. But used to, my pop and I would secondary to achieve it, and cold conditioning while secondarying. To mitigate not doing that, but getting the same results, I've done what I've already explained, and using the Float It is a really big piece of that puzzle. Now, as far as is secondary bad, we could talk about why a lot of people skip it. They are worried about oxidation. I know there are, if you're going to use a glass carboy, there are ways of doing closed transfer, and even doing a closed transfer from your secondary into a keg. They do make little toppers, and you don't want to go above like 2 psi. I think legal department's in my ear, tell them not to do it at all. Okay, don't do it at all. Don't add pressure to glass. That's the legal team. But joking aside, I know you could do it, but is it worth that potential risk? When my pop and I did open transfers, I will say the worry of oxidation was a little overblown. The one batch that I oxidized while transferring, that first ESB we brewed, it was because we were using an auto siphon, which is a wand that you stick into the liquid you're stealing, and then a siphon hose that goes into the vessel that you're packaging in. I was just so busy having to make an Instagram. They weren't called Reels back then, just a video for the Instagram. I'm all for the gram, baby. If you don't put it on the internet, did it really happen? So I'm so focused on getting the angle for the transfer. I'm holding the siphon tube that's in the keg and should be at the bottom of the keg so that it's not splashing. It's not. It's at the top. And I don't realize it till I'm 2/3 of the way through. And I'm like, oh, crap. Didn't say anything to my pop because I was like, maybe I'll look out. And then, a month into drinking the beer, it was like, I forgot if it was cardboard or metal or both. Maybe it was like, this tastes like metal cardboard. Every other batch we ever did, as long as we were sanitary, the hygiene behind it, as long as we were hygienic, the keg was clean and purged as best as possible with CO2. And we took that siphon hose, which was also sanitized, and we took it to the bottom of that keg. And so there was no splashing. We never had any issues. So if you're gonna secondary and you're doing it as a traditional home brewer and you're doing open transfer, be careful, but just be smart. You don't as Charlie Papazian would say, just relax, don't worry, have a homebrew. You're probably not going to mess it up unless you go out of your way to, which I basically did by just, oh, hey, Instagram, look at us transferring. And then, oh, crap, it's splashing. Ah! So, that's one thing I would say. If you're going to secondary, don't overthink it, but be smart and be straightforward. What did I say? I think I got this off of Homebrew Talk, a forum. Someone had said they like to secondary if they're going to age their beer for more than 4 to 6 weeks. Like this specific person was talking about doing a strong barley wine. And then another person on Homebrew Talk had said they like to secondary if they're adding fruit, oat chips, or large amounts of dry hops because they like to keep those separated from the initial yeast cake. Is there science behind that? Is that just a preference? I don't know. That's one of my favorite things about homebrewing, though. I'm not going to say it's subjective to the user's preferences as much as I'm going to say there's more than one way to skin a dead cat, right? Which is a really dumb saying. I always got that from Todd. Why are we skinning these dead cats? But they're like my protocol that I've just been harping on for a couple of these questions. You may hear and go, Josh, that's dumb. You really don't need to do that. But it works for me. There are people who brew phenomenal beer and their process works for them. They're like, every batch, I'm going to salt my water this exact way and it makes the best beer possible. Great. That's wonderful. I love that. And that's why I love this community, because I know I can rely on you guys to go to youtube.com/Homebrew Happy Hour and leave a comment. Ideally flattering. You don't have to call me an idiot if you're correcting me, but I'd love to hear from you on any of the questions for this week, because these are all topics, like most homebrewing topics, where perspective matters. And I'd love to hear your perspective. I'm open to changing my mind, but I'm probably not going to change my mind because I'm an old dog and you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Roger, thank you so much for submitting that question. I probably could have gone on, but I didn't realize I'm already over. I'm almost at an hour and 5 minutes of actual content, not counting the ads I've injected here. If you have a feedback for the ads, let me know. I've actually gotten more positive feedback through text and Instagram DMs than I thought I would, where people are like, I actually prefer them injected mid-roll as opposed to at the very top of the show. It's been nice. I do know advertising can be daunting to a listener if you're in the middle of content and then all of a sudden this episode's brought to you by, and you hear my voice even more. But I have appreciated you guys being so supportive of the brands that do the show, that support this podcast, and also for, giving me feedback in general. I try my best to take your feedback to heart, and when it makes sense, to implement it. I rarely am trying to be a man of the people, not a people pleaser, but if you give me feedback on my brewing processes or how I produce the show and it makes sense, I'll probably implement it. And if you want credit, I'll even give you credit. But that will do it for this week's episodes, my friends. I'm so happy that you joined me. Next week, I'll have a guest on, ideally, and we'll get to your questions and we'll do more. I also have some interviews lined up in the future. Spoiler for May's recipe kit. What I'm planning on doing, I'm gonna maybe by May 10th, I'll be able to announce it officially, because I'm working on that interview. They have not confirmed getting close. It is a big brewery. I wasn't holding my breath, and I still want to do this recipe for the month of May, even if I can't nab the owner of the brewery or anybody from the brew team. But I'm optimistic. I think we're going to get it. So be on the lookout for that. Like I said, last call for the delicious Boston Lager, patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Join a recipe receiving tier or just buy it outright and come brew with us. My friends, again, cannot say enough how much I appreciate y'all being in the community. And I'll catch y'all next week. So have a good weekend and see you soon.